I grew up skating. I lived in Escondido, like north of San Diego.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of eSKATE Chat with Evolve. We're here with the man himself, SoCal Legend, Evolve Ambassador out of California, United States. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
Oh, we're doing well over in Australia. Let's jump straight into it. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved in the Evolve family.
So I think it was like 2015. I had a friend of mine. We were kind of looking around for a motorized skateboard or kind of like an electric something. And I was tired of like going up and down the hills by pushing, and you have to run up the hill. And I just wanted something that would get me up the hill. And found a company called Evolve Skateboards, and he bought the Carbon Gen 2. And when he bought it, he brought it, set it down, and it was very, very intimidating. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I just was, it was like futuristic, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And so he ripped around on the grass, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I have like 6 boards now, so the rest is history.
What was your skate experience like previously to jumping on that board?
Oh, I grew up skating. I lived in Escondido, like north of San Diego, and I grew up there. I had probably 6 years, and I skated. I watched it's like an assembly or a rally where they had like Tony Hawk and like Gator. They had some BMX guys, and I just like was in awe with this. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. And so I had a bunch of friends that got into skateboarding. And so I had skated for about 5 or 6 years living in California. Then I moved to Missouri. There was no skating there. I lived on a gravel road, so took the trucks off the board and used it to go in the snow. And then moved back to California 10 years ago, and then got back into it, got a longboard, have a couple skateboards, and then never really did any tricks. I did some ollies and some small stuff, but I tried doing the ramps, but I always busted my ass. So,
I don't know the complete backstory for this, so you're going to have to fill me in. So, you're one of the OG ambassadors. You've been with the brand a very long time. You also work for Evolve, and I remember you were there at the early World Cups. What order did that all happen in?
okay, so 2015 got the board. In the very 2015, I got into an accident on the board. And then in 2016 was the World Cup. I think it was in June. And then I became an ambassador in September, started working for Evolve in October. So I've been with Evolve for about 4 years now.
Cool. So that all happened pretty quickly. So you went to the World Cup as a community member. Jeff, I'm guessing, saw your passion for it, brought you on board as an ambassador, and then eventually you transitioned into working for us as well. What's your role at Evolve HQ?
So I am the QC supervisor. We basically get the boards in from China. We assemble the boards. So basically it's just putting a battery on the board, testing all the functions. We do a load testing. And then we do the customizing for the boards. I do a lot of stuff at the shop. We have 3 original guys, and then we have like 5 or 6 newer guys as of like last year. So yeah, it's kind of interesting working for a company and then being an ambassador, because not very many people do that. So I think it was more or less, I had the passion for the product and was able to rep the product. And then they knew I knew a lot about the product, so they just hired me. A lot of it also was I would never leave the shop. I would just show up and hang out. And then they were like, we're just going to hire you. we're tired of you hanging around. We just want to give you a job now. So that's how that started. Never filled out an application, never handed in a resume, just showed up to work.
It's definitely a very unique perspective that you'd get. How would your viewpoint on it, I guess, give you insight into seeing how Evolve is different to other brands and that out there?
So yeah, I mean, I see a lot of things. I see the customer service side. So I see when there's issues with a customer's board. A customer's board comes in, and I see those things, and then I kind of see it in the groups, and I see them in the forums. And so, I mean, some of the times I'm just like, hey, have you guys, talked with this guy? Have you received this email? And so it's kind of like I'm double dipping, but also too, it's like I'm looking out for the community. I started out doing this because of the community. So I feel like me being at Evolve is kind of helping out the community because I'm like that eyes and ears, and I'm you guys, I'm part of you. So I think that I'm able to help out that way to a certain extent, but then it's like, there's a lot of people out there that just you can't make happy.
Yes, that is true. That is true. In more, I know you've been doing it for years, but this year, the last couple months, we've done a focus on community events. We're trying to build community in the USA more so than ever, and really try and kickstart that going into spring. You've sort of used your crossover as an ambassador and an employee to head a lot of those rides, and you're going to be the front man at some demos and all that sort of stuff. Tell us how the last couple rides have been. What's the community response been like?
It's really interesting because at first I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of Evolve people there, and it wasn't the case. There was still the same guys. It was the DIYs. It was the electric unicycles. It was new one wheel people, Super 73 guys, the electric bikes. So it was still more of the community instead of the Evolve community. And then, you guys blasted out emails. And then the next group ride that we did, it was a 50-50. So before we had like maybe 10 out of 50 people. This one right here, we literally had like 25 to 30 Evolve guys. And I think it was just like they saw the first ride and they're like, okay, we're going to go to the next ride. Okay, we're going to go to the next ride. And then just keep going on and on. But the more and more of the community we get, dude, we can have 200 or 300 people and have to like shut down streets to be able to keep everyone, together. Because I mean, at 50 or 60, dude, it's it can get pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting that you said that the Evolve turnout's been growing when we sort of use our marketing within the brand itself to reach out to our customers. Although we do try and scream that community is a huge part of what we do, the truth is a lot of people that buy our boards just don't enter this eSkate world. They're not in the groups. They're not in the community forums. So, I mean, not everyone has to do that, but it is cool when you can send them an email and they can just dip their toes in and come to one of those events and feel part of something. Was there a lot of first timers to the entire group ride situation out of those new people?
Yeah. So with the first group ride, I think we did it in February. No, wait. We did it in January. I think we had like one or two new Evolve guys that I'd never seen before. They said that was their first group ride that they came to. The second one, there was like 5 or 6. There was one guy, he was like, and I can tell like it was him and one of his buddies. But one guy, he's like, dude, I've only been on this thing twice, and this is my second time. And so it was like, oh, okay. He had a helmet. I mean, he was kind of an older guy, so I was like, he's been on a skateboard before, but he had no issues, no falls or anything like that for him. But yeah, I mean, I noticed at least 5 or 6 on this last one. So I definitely think that even with you guys posting it on your stories, several days before, and then doing like the email blast and stuff, I think that helps a lot. And you were talking about, working at Evolve and being an ambassador, I know I'd mentioned to you guys about, getting like a card, basically having like, groups and, forums and group ride info, and where we can put it in there. I think we could do that. I think we can do something very interesting for that, because then you're basically providing it to everyone, and everyone sees that as soon as they open the box, and they're like, dude, this is awesome. I'm going to add them on Facebook right now. And then they can get some insights. They can get a group ride in their area or whatever else. So I think, with having those kinds of things will kind of build up the community even more.
That was a great idea. And I think we do need to do that. And it's not just promoting the Evolve groups and stuff, but general eSkate. We're big about electric community. So like, we don't care if you rock up on an electric bike or whatever it might be. So we've spoken about putting the card, like someone buys a board, it's going to New York. Hey, here's 4 groups in your local area. But that's something we can also build up on the website. Imagine if you had a directory of 50 plus groups around the country. And it's just a cool way to connect people. And I think that's half of what this is about, just hanging out with people with that like-minded thoughts. We got a demo coming up in San Diego in Carlsbad. You're going to be out there with the crew doing a demo event where brand new people who don't even own boards can come and ride them, followed by another one of these group rides. What's you've done a lot of these demos around the country. Run us through how they work.
So basically with a demo, we'll set up a tent. We will set up a table. We'll have a board flipped up on its side, or we can basically, show them that the remote, what the board does, answer any questions with that. And then we usually have 1 or 2, if not 3, of each of the boards, depending upon how long the demo goes. So I think for this demo, we're going to have 2 bamboo boards that are AT. We're going to have 1 carbon that's AT, have a carbon street that's on the table where I can show everyone on the table. And then we're going to have a stoke. We're going to have plenty of remotes. With COVID right now, it's kind of difficult, but we're going to make it work. We're going to do all the COVID protocols, having the masks and stuff on. Basically, hand sanitizer for the remotes. A staff member is going to hold the remote, get it all prepped for you, hand it off. We're going to have all of our PPE and stuff that we need on to protect the people that are going to be there. We're going to do like a little loop around the track that we're going to set up. We're going to do some hot dogs. We're going to do maybe some chips and some drinks and stuff like that. It's going to be basically, little packets, and just have it all safe where, everyone and anyone that wants to come and do a demo, they can. But whenever you start the demo, I'm going to teach the people how to operate the remote, tell them what not to do, and tell them what helps themselves to operate the board. And then just kind of send them on their way. And then they do a couple laps, and then they have a huge smile on their face. Then we'll send them into the shop, and then they'll buy a board.
That's the theory anyway, right? But that is a good point.
It's happened. I've been to at least a dozen of these things, and there's at least 1 or 2 guys that are like, oh, I've got to have one, and they end up going in there. So I bet it'll happen.
I think it's people that have pretty much already made that decision, right? A lot of people buy them online, but some people just love having a face-to-face conversation with someone like yourself, getting physical hands on a product, and then they have the confidence to go and grab one. So these demo events are something you're going to see a lot more of around the USA to start with. I know we're talking, we're going to do some over in Florida, all up the West Coast there, up in San Fran, probably out in Hawaii, and then when it warms up in Chicago and New York. So if there's anyone listening that thinks we should come to their city and you got a pretty cool eSkate scene, let us know, and we'll keep eyes on the comments for sure.
Nice.
With sort of doing a bit of a segue on what you said about COVID. Remember at the very start, we had a K2 go-kart event actually booked. It was all booked. This would have been a year ago.
Yeah.
And those style events, obviously, we haven't been able to do them because of restrictions. But that's when restrictions start to ease. What would you like to see in terms of those sort of style events?
Oh, dude. So we've done a couple of them, of the K1 speed track races, just open to everyone. But I want to see him go all over the U.S. I mean, I know I've talked with you guys about trying to get one set up for Vegas. I've even looked at tracks in Tampa, Florida. I've looked at tracks in Texas. I've looked at tracks in Riverside, California, and I want outdoor tracks. I think, when you can get that drone up in the sky and you can actually see what's going on. Yeah, I want to see that. I mean, I love being in the inside of the tracks, like inside, but with COVID and stuff like that, we can do something outside, which I think that Vegas, they just passed where you can have up to 200 people in an outdoor event. So, I mean, there's some states right now that have no mask mandates. There's some states that have no restrictions at all. So if we can get there to those states, and dude, I'm down. Fly
It's
me
possible.
there, give me a car, let's go.
I'll tell Jeff. um, what's your opinion on competition versus free skate at these style things?
I mean, dude, I'm not a competitive person, so I don't know if you've heard of the guy Mo Biggs. Yeah,
The fastboard guy. Yeah.
yeah. So we had at the open track at the Evolve 2018 World Cup. I went head to head with him, dude. We had some extra little stuff that was in the board, and I felt good. I'm like, I'm going up against the man. And I think it was 3 laps. First lap, I had him the entire time until we got to the straightaway. And he just boom, kept it the entire time, beat me. But it was awesome to race against him. But for me, I'm not a very competitive person, so I'm not out there to get first place. I've had a few injuries, so as long as I can compete, I'm stoked. I would rather have fun and rip around the track with your buddies and just enjoy that. But, there's a thing called NASCAR and Ricky Bobby, and people like to go fast.
They do.
So, I mean, they want to see faster boards. They want to see longer range. They want to have that, competitive, outlook on it. But for me, it's just like as soon as I see someone fall, it's like I cringe because I know the pain. So, I mean, I've been to some of these races and I watched some guys fall. I watched a video of my buddy flying over a cliff. Thank God he had a helmet on, and thank God he had, I think it was a lazy armor jacket or whatever, lazy rollers. But dude, if he wouldn't have had that on, he would have had broken limbs and a lot of other things. So I think, if it's like on a controlled track where there's, medics and, people that know how to deal with, that kind of stuff, and that's not like an outlaw thing. I think that it's a good idea, but I just hate to see people get hurt.
Yeah, of course. We're the same. Now, I have another question, and this is probably not so much for you because you're Evolve, but I know a lot of your followers are the DIY crew or people that do rock other brands and other styles of riding. So if it comes to competition, eventually we can't put every board up against every board. So there needs to be some form of regulation. In motocross, it goes by engine capacity. Formula One, they all have to be within a certain limit. Where do you think that leaves eSkate competition? Do we start having categories saying, okay, 12S boards and under in here, or it goes off wattage of the motors? Where does this all fit?
I think it's so I remember with the first World Cup, it was like everyone skated against everyone. So I mean, you had Samo, which he's a nut, and he won all 4 races. And he went up against guys that were in their mid-50s, and he's in his 20s. So it's like, of course, he's the fastest, the best, and he's going to win. Went to the next World Cup, and he had a younger buck that kind of took him out at one of the street races. But he was still a competitor. So I think, if you got to have the age groups, I think you need to have 2 or 3 different types of age groups. You're going to have, some women, they're going to want to compete. I think you need to have a women's race. You can kind of coordinate that together. But I mean, you have to do it, where it's, I don't know, it kind of gets tricky.
It does get tricky.
And then you have to go into motor size. It's like, that would be easy because it's like, okay, you have, these KB motors and you don't, so we're going to keep you in this category. I get that. Then you have several different categories. So then you have, like, instead of a 1-day race, you have a 4-day race.
That's where it gets messy, doesn't it?
A 2-day street race, and then you have to have a 2-day off-road race, or do you just do, one street thing, and then you have like a circus where everyone comes, and it's like, you do your qualifying, and then you go keep on doing your qualifying, and then on the last day, you have everyone that won their rankings or whatever their sections are or whatever. They all race their finals, and that's it. So it's like, I don't know. It's I'm sure someone out there can figure it out, but I think it needs to be like in so many different categories, because you can't say, I go up against my girlfriend. Well, I've been doing it longer. I'm more experienced. I've got, a DIY board. She's got a stock board. So, of course I'm going to beat her. But then that's me saying, well, I'm going to beat you. So I think, it just all depends on really, the different categories.
Yeah, and that's where it gets messy. We could talk about this all day and just throw around ideas. I guess at the end of the day, nothing's going to suit everyone. So if you listen to that conversation just then, put your thoughts down there. Do you think we should be motor sized? Maybe it's a pro class and an amateur class, and then the pro is where the prize money is, and amateur is more recreational. Who knows? Let us know your thoughts, and we can figure that out at a later date. But the sport's growing, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you said, because, I want to hear what the community has to say about that, because there's a lot of different things that you can do. And, I mean, it can't be just one day. I mean, if it is one day, it's going to be a 24-hour day.
Well, that's it. But then it can be multiple days, but then people don't get enough riding in. So you can't come for a 4-day event and get 5 races. That's boring. So lots to weigh up there. You mentioned your girlfriend a bunch of times there, which is a super cool thing, because you're one of the guys that I guess brought your girlfriend in. Now she loves it just as much as you. Do you want to tell me about how all that came about?
So yes, Lisa is her name, and she
give her an Instagram shout out.
She has Skate Naked on Instagram, so you can figure out how to spell that. It's very interesting.
We'll put up a title.
But yeah, you can put it down below or whatever. So yeah, we met at the World Cup, and then a couple months later we started dating. A couple months later, started living together, and we started skating. She's my skate buddy, and she's been very influential in the community, especially with women. I've seen a lot of women over the last 2 years that have just basically, you have, a husband and wife, and they want to join together and go on, a skate date, or you have a boyfriend and girlfriend. One of the guys that we have working with us, his girlfriend's kind of slower on the board. She's learning, but she skated before, but she was able to use a bike and join us on a group ride. So, I mean, with Lisa and I, we do a lot of skating, and we do a lot of content for each other. It's kind of cool because I can film her, take pictures of her. She can do the same thing with me. And then when we're doing group rides, then, I could film her, and then she could film me. And it's pretty nice to have your partner be able to, share the same passion that you do.
100%. When we were over there in 2019, at the very start of the year, we were shooting the GTR commercial, essentially. And I remember seeing her skate then. And then I saw the footage from the Newport group ride just a couple weeks ago. And her progression was super, super cool. And I think that's inspiring for a lot of girls out there. 100%. This is something that you can do and you should get into.
Yeah. I mean, she's been skating for, I think, about 8 or 9 years, maybe 10 years. Just longboard, just going around the park or whatever. But yeah, seeing like exactly what you said, the progression from when she first started and then to now ripping around at that Mission Bay skate. I mean, it's she gives me a run for my money. You know, but also too, she's got yoga, she's got good balance, and she's able to do things on a board because of those things. We have one of the guys that works at the shop. He's basically a dance pro, and he's doing tricks, and you know, he can get down low on the board because of his balance. So I mean, any of the girls out there that have balance, and they want to join their, you know, boyfriends or husbands, give it a try.
Let's do a bit of a 180 now. We're filming this a couple of days in advance, but when it comes out, there's going to be a sale on in the USA and around the world for that matter. Did you got the memo on that this morning?
Nope, dude. I don't know memos. I mean, I try to look at the WhatsApp a lot. You know, it's kind of different, you know, because we don't have very many meetings unless it's a meeting with you guys, and so it's like I try to look at those things, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, let me fill you in. We're doing a big sale, a spring sale. We're trying to get a lot of people involved in eSKATE for spring and summer. Perfect time. We have quite a lot of boards because we ramped up production during COVID. What we're going to do is it's $200 off, and we already lowered the price.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Whoa. Okay, so hold on a second here. Basically, what you just told me is I'm going to be busy.
Oh yeah, you're going to be packing a lot of boards.
And I find this out on a podcast. That's awesome.
Because you didn't read WhatsApp, apparently.
Dude, I got to look at it now.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the deal. It's $200 off the GTR boards, and yeah, that pretty much, I'm not 100% sure, like $14.99 or $14.49. It's pretty cheap.
So if it's 200 off, what if they found a code out there somewhere? Can they use that code as well?
They 100% can use that code. I don't know where they're going to find that, but they can go looking for it. All right?
They can go looking for it somewhere. I think they could find it somewhere pretty easy.
I think they could probably find it. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of new eSkaters around the world, and that's also happening in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So if you're in any of those places, jump on. The deal's slightly different because of all those things, but the sale is going to be on when this podcast goes live.
And how long is that sale going to go on?
Until stocks last. So we're not running them out, but we got a lot of boards, and we're going to sell a buttload of them and get back on track. So it's not going to go forever, but jump on when you can. That leads us on to the USA scene in general. The USA eSkate scene is probably the biggest in the world. It's pretty spread out because you got such a big country with so many cities, but there's more eSkaters there than anything else. You spend a lot of time online. What do you see happening? What's exciting happening there? What's happening there compared to other places you see in the world? Or what would you like to see happen in the future?
So what I see is the community's growing. I noticed in Hawaii, there was a couple dudes that basically just started blasting all over social media, and he's got some crazy boards that he's designed, and then he starts building up his little community. He finds a one-wheel community, and I think their last group ride, he had like 40 people there. So I think it's the communities. I think, you know, you have San Francisco, their community is huge. You have New York, their community is huge. You have Southern California that's in several different segments. And if you can join them all together, dude, that would be we could do the freeway. We could shut down. Oh, dude, could you imagine during COVID if we would have got every single eSkater together? We would have just taken over the freeways. I mean, I live right next to a freeway, the 5, and it was dead. And I wanted to go skate on it so bad, but I did Vegas Strip instead. But I think the community is getting bigger is what I see. I think more and more people are just trying to just like try to cross the line of, hey, how fast do I want to go? I start seeing more and more people with DIYs that they're just wanting to push the lines. They want to go 70, 80 miles an hour. I think that if with everything that they're trying to do in the United States by making everything like all combustion engine cars go away by 2035 in California, that's going to open up more electric mobility devices and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think it's just going to end up being like, you'll have, what are some of the bike events where they have hundreds and hundreds of bikes? Like, oh, in London, they have like, critical
Critical
mass and stuff
mass.
like that. And they even have biking events where they get, hundreds and thousands of people together and they start riding down the streets for charity events. Dude, that's definitely going to happen. I mean, we already did one with Super 73 and Shred Lights last year during COVID, and we had like almost 100 people there. So I just think it's going to get bigger and bigger. But I also think with bigger and bigger, there could be a lot more limitations, on laws and stuff like that. So I think that, if like Evolve and Super 73 and One Wheel and the big brands got together all over the US, then they can basically come up with something that we can take it to like legislation and try to get something passed where, we can show them that this is the e-mobility device is the next future. Then it's going to be legal all over the US. We're going to have our own bike lanes. We're going to have, our own sections where we can get back and forth to work, or we don't have to worry about, cars, or we don't have to worry about people walking out in front of us. It's our area.
I think personal mobility is inevitable. And as you said, it's getting bigger and bigger. So yes, that does have a few problems in terms of legislation, trying to keep up, but they can't stop it. They just have to make a way to make it work. So that's great. We should get bigger and bigger and bigger. We should move forward as like a unity. It's not one brand. It's skateboards, it's scooters, it's everything you can think of. And you'll start to see it. And it's happening in some of the progressive places in Europe that they are investing in infrastructure, building bikeways specifically for that. COVID has scared a lot of people away from public transport. So, they don't want to get on the trams in London, that sort of stuff, the tubes even. So it's an inevitable future, and we're at this exciting stage at the start where we get to shape the way it goes a little bit. So that's super exciting. And I think because of the way the United States is, you're the land of the free, right? You have, you do have a lot of free reign to do a bunch of things. So I think when laws do come in, they'll be pretty lenient in most places anyway, and they won't sort of impede on us having a good time too much.
Yeah. I mean, you might have that occasional older gentleman that's by the beach and this is his 30-year job, and he sees a skater go by and he yells at him. I mean, you're going to get those guys, but a lot of them, they just, as long as we're not doing anything or we're causing harm to someone else, they just let us be.
Is there anything else you sort of want to talk about on this?
Well, I have a question. So I don't know if you can answer this, but I saw a question on one of the forums today. It was the Evolve owners group, and someone asked if Evolve is going to be coming out with a new product this year. Can you give me any insight on that? Is there any information you can give me? Do we have any information? Do we know anything? Maybe next year? Did COVID mess it up? Anything?
Well, okay, let's put it this way. You know, when we were working on the GTR, you had that battery in your board 3 years before that came out.
Well, it wasn't 3 years. It was about 2 years, and then I had the prototype. I still have the prototype, and that was about 6 months before I stepped foot on an actual GTR. But I mean, it was like so many different variations. But also too, I haven't heard anything. I keep my eyes and ears peeled for everything, but I haven't heard anything. So I'm just curious. I want to see bigger battery. I want to see some crazy stuff. I want to see the next level. I want to see people, when they see this board, they're going to be like, oh, that's why people get an Evolve.
That's an exciting thing to talk about.
If you can pass that down the line to the big guys, that's what the community wants.
Yeah, that's an exciting thing to talk about, because we can talk about that post and what I guess people want. What do you think the next board should be?
I mean, what I think, I think that more integration with the app, where you can actually have like logged miles, or, you know, a remote that, you know, people can actually like depend on. You know, I have never broke my remote, but I never dropped my remote. But I see it all the time. Someone drops their remote and it breaks, and then they get upset that they've had to buy a couple of remotes. The skin, I don't know if I can say this, but whatever. But when that skins, they first came out, we had 3 guys in the shop. We actually put it on a remote that, you know, had some missing parts. But I wanted to see if it worked. And I wanted to see if I just drop it, if it would actually work. And we played hacky sack with it for about 5 minutes. I tried to be a kicker in the NFL, and I punted it about 50 feet. It didn't break. One piece did fly off. And then one of the techs, he decided he wanted to slam it on the ground, and it shattered. But of course it's going to shatter. But with that right there, you know, I just want to see like more integration, you know, having some kind of cooling system for the batteries, or having something that's integrated to have one of my buddies in Vegas be able to ride his board all year round without having to worry about a motor issue or a battery issue or temperature issues. And then having something that you can ride in the snow. I see a lot of guys that are trying to rip around in the snow. Dude, that's going to be the next sport, man. When someone can put some spikes on a tire and go rip around a track that's an ice track, dude, that's the next thing right there. But I just want to see, like, you know, just the next best, greatest thing, you know. I mean, I've got the generations of all the boards on my wall here, so I'm a huge fan, of course, but I want to see the, like, over the top where everyone's like, yep, that's what I thought Evolve was coming out with.
If we're talking about over the top, so now we do see a lot of brands that, like, don't get me wrong, they're awesome, but you could definitely say they're over the top. In that thread, someone's like, I just want a GTR with 100 miles of range. Is that legitimately?
But you're going to pay $6,500 for it. No. The thing about it is if you want, so the new LaCroix came out at $6,500 or $6,000 or whatever. The new Cali board came out at $6,500, and those are both 100-mile range boards. Well, then you're basically putting yourself into a motorcycle category. You know, you can go and get any used motorcycle for $6,000, $5,000. So, and then the comfort level of being on a board for 100 miles. I mean, there maybe be 100 people in this community all over the whole world that can legitimately skate 100 miles in one day. Other than that, your board doesn't need to do that. If it can, great. But if you can pack that all down in one little small, cool, compacted thing where it can get 50 miles, no issues, 100%. Yes, sell that for $3,000. But when you're getting into the $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000, that's where your profit margin and everything else is not going to go anywhere. So I don't think that a 100-mile board is going to save the day. I don't think a board that goes 70 miles an hour is going to save the day. This is, if you want to do that, then get a motorcycle. If you want to do that, then get a faster car, or just use a car.
All that. That's probably going to wrap us up just about there. So thanks for jumping on. I think people are going to be stoked to see you, hear your story and all those things. If you got to this stage of the podcast, this is podcast number 8. It takes a little bit to do this, so we would super appreciate your support. If you can jump in the comments, let us know where you're watching it from, and give the video a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. You can follow Joe. We'll link him in the description. SoCal Legend on Instagram and on Facebook. That's about it. Talk to you later.
Later, guys.